What is going on, everybody? The Whiskey Saint, back on another Wednesday. We're going to be kicking it off with another review, guys. Took a few weeks off to dive into some blinds, and we're back with a review. Actually had this bottle, God, for 4 months, maybe. Probably got it in like April, I believe. Actually won this bottle. Generous patron of another channel donated this in a super chat, and when he won it, he actually donated it to me. So what we're going to be talking about, guys, is a bottle from Rising Tide called Old Stubborn. This is batch 2. It's a bourbon from them. I do remember this being pretty good, but I honestly haven't tasted it since April. So we're going to dive back in, kick this off, do a little review, show you the stats, show you how I ranked it amongst everything else that I ranked this year, and just taste along and just have a good time. If you're new to our channel, hit the like and subscribe. We're going to kick this show off. Cheers. So let's do this up, guys. If I can open it, right? This thing came in a really nice bottle too. It's like a nice decanter. You can see the color of it already is like crazy dark. Give you a slight little background to what it says on the back of here. Very special first release, even though this is the second release. I believe the first one was a wheated bourbon. This one's just a straight bourbon. Consists of 10, 11, and 12-year-old pot still bourbon presented at cask strength, non-chill filtered. These barrels were meticulously chosen and hand-married by Ed Blay, then lovingly hand-bottled in Kentucky. If you guys haven't heard of Ed Blay, look him up. Dude's a pioneer when it comes to blending and just picking barrels, man. Did a lot of stuff over at Cork and Bottle. I want to say in 2017, I believe I read that he was like named like Wild Turkey, like single barrel selector of the year or something like that. Like he chose like over 20 barrels just in 2017 from Wild Turkey, which is kind of nuts. Everybody fights for like 1 or 2 barrels a year from them, and this guy's choosing over 20 in 1 year, which is crazy. But we're going to dive into this. Shared a bit of it. So I had a couple pours myself, then took this to Tennessee back when I was doing a barrel pick with the team and shared a little bit over there with some of those guys. But the cork actually like disintegrates in here because it's like so sharp around the top of this bottle that I literally lost already half of the cork. Every time I open it, I lose more. But we're going to pour this up, guys. And actually, I'm going to pour a little bit more. Top this up. Probably going to drop more cork in here. It's already shredding every time I put it in there. You guys can see just losing cork. It's just dropping. But spin this up a bit. Yeah, the color on this is glorious. And we're going to dive right in, guys. As you can see, price on this bottle is not cheap. Comes in at a whopping $200. I actually may be undervaluing that a bit. I think it might have been slightly above 200. I think 2 to 220 was that retail. Coming at 123.8 proof. Like I mentioned earlier, guys, it's a blend of 10, 11, and 12-year-old bourbon, all pot stilled. And I know for some people, I know Jeff in particular, doesn't sit well with pot stilled. He picks it up really quick and doesn't really care for it too much. Me, I don't know what that specific note is. Maybe I contribute pot stilled to like some funkiness that I typically get on some of these whiskeys, but don't know what that note is that he's getting. But I do remember enjoying the nose, enjoying the palate. I believe he enjoyed the palate, but didn't enjoy the nose. But we're going to dive in, guys. Cheers. Got my Hard Truth Glen over here. We'll be seeing them next month. Stay tuned, man. If you're not in that Patreon, join it. We got some upcoming crazy stuff, and these guys are part of them. Cheers. Yeah, so this is funny. Right before this, I was actually tasting a Hughes Bella Bedford 10-year. It's a store pick out of Ohio. Actually, I think it's technically Kentucky where Jeff's at, the party sauce over there. And this reminds me of that funkiness that I was getting. It's just a old, like, just funky oak. Like you would think that the bourbon's, potentially, 15 years old or so, just off the nose alone. But yeah, just a very, very funky. And I don't know if I can't say that's the pot still because I got it in that rye, which is not pot stilled, but a very, very funky, similar note on this. Lots of depth, just super, super amounts of depth. Like it's just dark chocolate, nice spice, so much wood and just wet, saturated oak. Oh god, like literally if you just had soaked staves that you just pulled out of a barrel and you were just nosing that, that's what this nose is like for me. Opens up to a little bit of sweetness right there, some vanilla, but super, super dark on the nose, not really bright at all. Maybe a tiny, tiny bit of maybe like a citrus peel or something like that. But outside of that, like it's just all darkness. Nice, sweet, funky oak, cinnamon, spice, vanilla. Those conventional bourbon notes, but the nose on this is pretty, pretty nuts. It's coming across really, really nice for me right now. We're gonna give it a taste, guys. Wow. So that first sip came across better than what I remember this being. That just lit up the front and mid of my palate. Super dark berry, a little bit of drying aspect though. Like I'm getting a slight bitterness right at the tail end of it, but it's so sweet and berry forward up front with like nice spice and flavor that kind of just saturates your tongue. Almost dries you out a little bit, but wow, that first sip was pretty nuts. We're gonna take another sip, see if it kind of dials in a bit, maybe kicks back some of those notes. But yeah, that first sip just lights you up. Lights you up. My mouth is still on fire. And it's only 123 proof. Like it's not even something crazy, but the flavor is so intense on the palate. It's nuts. It's going for another sip. So that second sip, flavors definitely get toned down a little bit, and you can taste more of that whiskey. Just comes across a little bit more balance versus a just massive flavor punch on the first sip. And I actually prefer that second sip a little bit. As much as I like that flavor bomb, it kind of mellowed out and just it gelled a little bit better. Like I said, just came across a little bit more balance on that second sip, which was nice. Proof wasn't as potent either. Um, yeah, overall, that second sip was great. As you can see, guys, on the nose, I had this as 2 thumbs up. I think the nose on this is just ridiculous. I know Jeff will say the opposite with that pot still note that he gets, but this is like almost everything I want in a bourbon. Just sweet, funky, dark, oaky. It just smells like musty and like dusty. For those who knows that, man, like you know what I'm talking about. Just like old, like dusty oak, funky, kind of getting on like some of the high bar and like that Calumet 16. You get like that farmy, oaky, musty note, which sounds a little off-putting, but the actual note itself is really, really nice. And that's what I'm getting on this. I can sit here and just nose this all day, guys. As we talk about the palate, I got the palate as 2 thumbs up as well. I really, really dig this whiskey. Uh, could it be better? Of course, every whiskey pretty much can, but it's what's expected, I guess, when, you're paying that type of premium for whatever bottle it is, $200 plus. You kind of want everything to be stellar in a sense, right? Like, you don't want to pay that money, then just be disappointed on the pour. So at that price point, although it would probably be a tough buy, like actually on the taste of this, I think I would buy it once. It's not a bottle that I'll be consistently backing up, but I think it would be a nice bottle to have in a bar, with the quality of the whiskey that's in it. Right. Finish for me. This finish goes on. Didn't talk too much about it, but first sip lights you up. Second sip kind of balances out, like I mentioned, but that finish just sits on your tongue. Like right now, I still get a little bit of that remnants of it. And I took that sip probably, a minute and a half ago or so, maybe even 2 minutes. It's been a while. But I'm going to take one more sip of this, guys. We'll kind of break down the final points of it. Yeah, just that finish just goes on and on. Getting like a nice, like dark cherry, spicy I want to say Dr. Pepper, but like spicy cherry cola right at the end of that palate. This is just really, really good whiskey. I know not a lot of people has had a chance to try this. And I think this would be something that I would want most people to try blind, right? Not knowing what this is and hearing about the price of it kind of sways you to think a certain way. But I think something like this would hold up really, really good against like some banger whiskey in a blind, which I may actually kind of work that into something soon just to see how it does. I know some people don't like it. Like I want to mix Jeff up one time. I got to try to sneak a little pot still that he can't tell us pot still one of these days. And like a blind for him, but I really enjoy this whiskey. I enjoy every aspect of it, nose, palate, finish. The only thing like the price, I wish it was cheaper, right? Like I think a bottle like this would sell a lot more. Granted, I think it's sold out at the 200, but if it was about 125, maybe 150 max, I think would have been a great point for it. But you can see these scores for me, guys. Flavor got an 87.5. Experience score, like this just hits every level for me on the mouth, right? So that experience is really, really high. I got it at 94. Value, I have it at an 80. It's just because it's $200, right? Like it's tough. It's really, really good whiskey, but I got the value a little low because I know not a lot of people are going to be willing to pay for this bottle. But I think if somebody tried it, they're not going to dislike it, if that makes sense, right? Like Jeff's the only one that may not like it that much, but everybody else that I've ever given this to has enjoyed the whiskey, even knowing what it was prior to drinking it, right? So if we go on, guys, my final score on this was a 90, which is top 5 for me this year so far. I haven't reviewed too many bottles this year, but we're looking at it's tied 5th out of 30 out of the ones I reviewed for 2024, guys. And if we look all time, we're at 100. Oh, sorry, we're at tied for 12th out of 109 bottles that I reviewed so far. This bottle, in my opinion, is really, really good. Like I said, the only kind of drawback to it is just that price point of being 200 to 225 retail. But outside of that, just stripping that away and just tasting the whiskey, I think it's really, really good whiskey. Like I said, it's in my top 5 right now. So we'll see how this does towards the end of the year. See if it stays above like that top 5 or stays in that top 5 or trickles out of it or whatever the case is. But I'm anxious to see. There's a lot of really good whiskey coming out in the next couple months. So we're going to see if this starts trickling down or if it just, holds true and stays in that top 5 position. Really curious to see. But thank you guys. Sticking with me so far. We're going to end this off. Until next time. Cheers.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say